Hi there, everyone. I am coming here with a crew from the Gauntlet, which if you've seen a bunch of my videos, I play with the Gauntlet a lot. If you ever want to find some of the greatest people in the world to role play with, go find the Gauntlet. Wonderful, welcoming community, and I enjoy every game I play with anyone from the Gauntlet. I have some of my favorite people in the whole wide world playing this time, though. We're going to be playing the Big H, which it comes from Gauntlet Codex Decay. Gauntlet puts out a fanzine. It is amazing. Every issue has wonderful ideas, wonderful things that you can plug into your games. Amazing brand new games. It's completely different, never seen before. This is one of those. The Big H is by Josh Fox. And it is a story of a great, noble hero, a superhero, in fact, who has fought the good fight for countless years and eventually came to the realization, why am I fighting these same battles over and over? I have the power to stop all of this. Villainy will be put in its place. Everyone will live free and happy underneath the Big H's rule. Our story is about the fall of the Big H and those who do not completely agree with what they've decided to do. So, I want to start by saying that we have the Gauntlet inclusivity policy in effect here. That basically means we're all here as friends. We're all here to support each other. We're all here to have fun. We have an open table policy, and everybody is welcome. And we're going to have a good time together. I also have our safety tool, which I use often, is the X card. If you haven't used the X card before, just put up this symbol or sign in the video, put something in chat, say to me, hey, Tyler, I want to X that. If something is not, well, it's become problematic. It's taking away from your fun. It is making the game not a pleasant experience. What I'll do is I may ask for some clarification just so I can know, and we'll backtrack. We'll reframe and go forward. It is here so that all of us feel comfortable. I have said in the past that, of course, there's no questions asked, and there's not. However, if anyone has something that this brings up that they feel like sharing, we have our event page. We have our chat here. We can take a moment, and everyone should feel free to be able to express themselves. We're all friends. We're all taking care of each other. So, that said, we're going to be starting this game, the Big H, and it is a GM-less game. I'm going to be facilitating. In doing so, I'm going to kind of keep us going on our phases. But you're going to see all of us play, all of us be the villain, all of us be our hero. We're all going to be shaping scenes, and we're going to create this thing all together. First thing we're going to do is create the Big H. But before that, I'd love to have everyone introduce themselves and say hello. So I'm going to start with my left, the screen's right, I think. Kyle, say hello to everybody.
Hey everyone, I am Kyle. I've been playing with the Gauntlet for a little while now, and it's been great. Yeah, I saw this. I think Decay was one of the first codexes I got. It was right around when I started, when the Gauntlet came on my radar, and the Big H sounded really cool. So I'm really excited to get to play it.
Awesome! I'm so glad you're playing. And then we have our birthday boy here with us today. Introduce yourself, please.
Hello, my name is Michael, and I am 25 years old today. Times 2 minus 4. So yeah, that's how many years I am today. I have also been really looking forward to this. Yeah, the iconic superhero gone bad and corrupted. That's a classic. Ever since the 80s, it's been a classic story. And also, this rule set's really cool. reading over it today, it gave me a very big Fiasco vibe. And I'm a big fan of Fiasco, so I'm looking forward to gaming with y'all today.
Excellent. Next up in line is my dear. Introduce yourself, please.
Is that me?
That's you.
Oh, okay. Hello, I'm Patrick. I'm Tyler's husband. We've been playing with Gauntlet for like a year. Well, coming up right on a year since we've been playing, interacting a little more than that. I'll echo. I thought the Big H looked super cool when it came out. Superhero systems so often are about like all of the powers and granular little choices you could make, and this one is 100% about the story archetype. And I think it's a cool one I've never really gotten a chance to play out before, so I'm excited about this.
Awesome. And my dear friend from the final frontier of Alaska, please introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Ryan. I've been playing with the Gauntlet for about 3 months now, I think. And I'm also excited about this game because I like superheroes and I like the people playing the game. So it's going to be cool.
Awesome. All right, then. Well, let's jump kind of into the middle of it here. If we can bring up the game itself, we'll see that in setup, game structure, and that is for those of you looking on page 15. And for those of you at home, you should have Codex Decay. You can get it on DriveThruRPG, or if you're a Patreon of the Gauntlet. And you can look on page 15 as well. So on page 15, we'll see game structure. Create the Big H. You can flesh the Big H out in play, but try to start the game with a sketch of who they are. At a minimum, you need their powers. Think big. Their ideals. A couple of things. They suggest truth, justice, in the American way. We can, however, go however the heck we want to. So why don't we start off? Let's play with powers. I think that always helps define down a character. So, Ryan, what do you think a power that the Big H has?
Oh no, there's so many cool ones. Let's go completely physics breaking and say gravitational control.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, cool. So gravitational control. Patrick, what's the power the Big H has?
I don't know. One that's always struck me as just like begging to be abused and used irresponsibly is some ability to like affect or rewrite the past.
Ooh, so is that you're thinking like actual ability to go back in time, or is it something like Superman spinning around the world fast enough that it reverses time?
I mean, maybe it ties into the gravitational thing. He's got some like connection to cosmic phenomena or black holes or something, and he can open up windows into the past that he can reach through and change things. But like if he went through, he'd be lost, so he can't fully go back and redo everything or something like that.
Well, I think that's cool. Of course, everybody feel free to speak up with that idea, but I love the concept of kind of like he can't fully go back and just live and kill Hitler, but he could go back and tweak things.
Mm-hmm. It's just these little effects that maybe start to add up to cumulative things, or start to really slide wrong when he starts to lose his way, or she, or they, or whatever.
Whoever they are, right? All right, so we'll say time manipulation. That sound good? All right. Well, Michael, what power does the Big H have?
Well, if the Big H is able to manipulate the present by affecting the past, but only in very subtle ways to not, break time, break the continuum and all that. Let's say, I think this person, I think we're looking at a super genius, specifically someone with the ability to project probabilities to a ridiculous degree, where it almost seems like the person's omniscient or can predict the future.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So super genius. I love that. Excellent. Kyle, what powers the Big H have?
What else can this person do? Maybe to give them something like combat or whatever. Maybe, yeah. Again with the time thing, maybe they're like really fast. You know, like super fast reflexes. You know, almost seems like they're not moving or can't see them moving.
Excellent. So super speed reflexes. All right. And I think I'm going to go with, I think also kind of playing with that gravitational time sort of manipulation. I think it's nearly impossible to hurt the Big H. Like, can jump back that second before being hurt, or can jump back to a moment when they weren't injured or hindered. Sound good? People up for that? Okay, so time invulnerability would be time-based. There we go. All right. Sounds like Big H is pretty freaking tough. I think let's open up for all of us, and it's always dangerous just to open up the mic, but what do we think the Big H's name is? What is this? Is this a male or a female or a robot or an alien of some sort?
I'm not sure, but it sort of sounds like maybe rather than like innate or mutated powers, like they built their powers. Like built devices, use super genius-y stuff to play with dimensional gravitational forces and sort of like focus their technology on an item.
I like that. Any other thoughts? Do we like the idea of it's... I'm getting some feedback off somebody. Is that you, Michael?
Oh, are you hearing perhaps something in the background, like a voice?
Yeah.
Okay, let me silence.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I just got over. Couldn't quite hear everything. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I suspect it might. Yeah, there is a video playing in the background, but I think we're okay now.
Okay, cool.
And I'll silence myself until I have something to say.
Okay, quite. Again, we're open up here. We like this idea then of super science is our generator from this.
Sure.
All right. Kyle, male, female, alien, robotic?
Initially I thought alien, but I'm not super set on that if that clashes with anyone's vision. But
any thoughts, Michael? Thoughts on that?
Robot. Since you mentioned robot, I thought that's kind of resonating to me a little bit because a classic a classic trope is fear of technology and outpacing us, and everyone's worrying about the machines taking over. That's always a classic thing.
You're muted, dear.
I think alien robot sounds amazing.
Ooh, okay. That sounds good, Brian. You like that?
Rather than like a product of man's invention, it's it's something that fell from the cosmos. Who knows what ancient race made it? But it's here now.
That works for me.
Okay. I like that idea too. So sort of like the Big H fell to Earth to protect us all. And that's just continuing to build up in the programming, building up what that means as things go along. I think that's cool and creepy. All right. Fell to Earth. Anybody have a name for the Big H? It can't just be the Big H. What do we? Well, I mean, it could be, but anybody volunteer a name?
I'm feeling not the shepherd, but something along those lines. You know, something that emphasizes the Big H's apparent burgeoning role as an overseer, a guider, and eventually, you know, a master of us all. But I don't like the shepherd, but something along those lines.
Okay. Something in those thoughts. Ryan, any thoughts along those lines or something divergent?
Naming superheroes has always been one of my great weaknesses, despite the fact that I spent like 10 years in superhero roleplay MMOs. So don't look at me.
Kyle, Patrick, thought on a name there?
I do like that line of thought that Michael shot out there. But again, I spend way too much time overthinking names, so don't wait for me.
Patrick?
Stupid headphones. Maybe something like the Caretaker or Safeguard.
Ooh.
I like both those.
I like them both too. I like Safeguard. Do we like that?
That works for me.
Okay. Safeguard.
For our continuity there, I just typed in Shepherd synonyms. It shows the best looking ones.
And as a part of this game, now that we've kind of set up the powers and given a name to the Big H, what is the Big H standing for? What are the ideals that Safeguard has come down and been conveying to Earth? And I'm going to make everybody answer a question here. I think we should get a lot of cool ideals. So, Ryan, what is an ideal of Safeguard?
It has truth, justice, and the American way written here, and I am failing to think of words that aren't those now that it's stuck in my head. Right. I think it's got to include, like, protecting the innocent or civilians or something.
Okay, protecting the innocents, a good one. All right. Patrick, an ideal?
Something about balance, like maintaining or redressing balance.
Okay, something like equality or equity, or is it like a, when we say the balance, do we mean like man and nature, or what balance you thinking?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, then we'll put down protector of balance, and we'll try and define that out. Because I have an idea. Michael, what's an ideal?
I have a thought that could bounce off of the idea of balance that Patrick put forth. And I like the idea of the concept, the ideal of intergalactic equilibrium. The idea that the Safeguard scope goes far beyond this planet, and acknowledges that this planet is just one cog in the universal community, and that can be good. The idea of preparing us for entry into the intergalactic community of civilizations, that could be, there's a lot of good potential there, but there's also the downside that we're just a simple cog in the machine, and while the Safeguard could be looking out for us in the short term, in the long term, it is looking out for the entire universe. And if that means doing something that could be catastrophic to Earth in order to preserve or even improve the overall universal welfare, it's something it will do, and not necessarily something we're going to be great with. So I would say intergalactic equilibrium.
Oh, I love it. Okay, that fits nicely.
And what should we should probably decide on, like, pronouns to refer to.
Yeah.
Safeguard. I feel like if Safeguard is a, like, world loved hero, at least for a while, people have probably humanized it more than it into, like, a they, or maybe people have genderized it. What do people think?
It could be an interesting theme if everyone just genderized it their own way, and that there was no real consensus on exactly how to envision the Safeguard. Otherwise, they would be as good as anything.
Kind of like different, maybe like different countries, different societies have gendered Safeguard in their own ways, kind of to reflect their idea of that protector.
Yeah, one thing that might be helpful to figure that out is if we figure out what Safeguard looks like.
It's a good thought. Let's get this last ideal out of Kyle, and that I may put one in. And so, Kyle, what's another ideal of Safeguard?
The thought I had was like kind of in like a cold way, or like calculating way, like I'm envisioning him. You know, like the maximum good. You know, if it was like a situation where, you know, killing one person would save 100. You know, they would make that decision. You know.
Gotcha.
Easily.
So, kind of that greater good trumps the individual.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. That's a slippery slope there. Oh, I love it.
Sure is.
All right. And I think I'm going to put in as an ideal the idea of progress, as in the Big H believes that all the people of Earth should be one government, and to play with that intergalactic view that we all should be moving towards this one universe. So I think he's globalistically progressive as an ideal. Sound good? All right. All right. So I think that does bring us to what Safeguard looks like. I think I'm going to start by throwing something in. I think that kind of to get humanity to appreciate and trust, I think we're talking about bipedal humanoid shaped. I don't think we're seeing like Warlock or something that's, you know, completely out there amorphous. I think we have a bipedal humanoid shape. I'm going to come back down the other side then and hear some suggestions. Again, keep in mind, we're all doing it together. So when someone says something, feedback, we'll just burn up these airwaves by crossing over each other. It's perfectly fine. Kyle, tell us something Safeguard looks like.
Yeah, when you said look, I had the same thought of it definitely wants to look human to fit in. But maybe its eyes are like reflective, you know, which is a little off-putting, I would imagine. Kind of like this shiny mirror anytime you look at them.
Well, I like that. All right, Michael.
I'd put forth the possibility of thinking that looked almost angelic, like something that actually, whether we do a childhood's end thing where Safeguard deliberately takes advantage of human religious thought and concepts and archetypes to help ameliorate the inevitable mistrust and suspicion that, you know, this planet would typically have towards some outside alien thing. Now, whether that means an angel or some other religious or just, you know, collective unconscious, subconscious thing, I'm not sure, but something mythic. Let's say something mythic in appearance.
I like that. Patrick?
So I love this sort of like playing off of people's preconceptions and like their deeply buried emotional and spiritual triggers. So I like this. Maybe they're constantly shifting. Like they are at any time a perfect amalgam of who is around them. So their like ethnicity or prominent features would shift as they go into different groups and populations. The sort of spiritual messenger of the beyond that they're portraying would start to change and alter depending on like the predominant religion or spirituality of people around them. So that it's probably just like a subroutine or something that they're running, but it almost presents this like very diabolical, sort of Machiavellian use of people's trust instincts.
So it's always socially relevant to who Safeguard is dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Oh, that's cool. Okay, cool.
So I just thought of something else. What if, given that we've established that Safeguard can produce subtle manipulations of the past, what if when Safeguard first arrives here, before it even makes its presence known, it studies global society, and what if it uses its time manipulation to start going in the past and kind of like building images of itself into prehistory?
That's so good.
So that it basically building up its own, I guess
it's laying its own mythology.
Yeah, like retroactive mythology, like retroactive marketing, in a way. And maybe who knows? Part of the turn could be if we discover that that's something it did, and then we're all creeped out by it, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's really cool. Y'all like that too, Ryan, Kyle? That sound good? Oh, I think that's really nifty. Ryan, tell us something else about how Safeguard looks.
I think, though, it shifts to kind of match the people around it to an extent. It always looks noticeably non-human and robotic, so it's not really in the uncanny valley. It's just sort of humanized robot thing. So it's not as immediately, what the heck is this? It's just the android happens to be shaped kind of like you, so you should trust it, sort of thing.
So it's always still alien and robotic.
Yeah, it never looks like just a straight up person, but it looks like one kind of tailored for wherever it is that it is.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that could be a deliberate decision for Safeguard to start acclimating Earth to the concept of alien presences.
I like that. Okay, that's cool. So we've kind of set up that Safeguard has gravitational powers and time manipulation that allows them to reach back and tweak bits of history, but can't really go back and do wholesale change. They're a super genius because they're an alien robot of immense capabilities. They have super speed and reflexes. They can, kind of that maybe can see a bit of what's fixing to happen. Maybe, just also really fast and, physically capable. We have that it's hard to actually hurt Safeguard because you do something to them now, they'll just shift a moment and be back before it happened. We have that they believe in protecting the innocent. They protect the balance, but that balance is probably humanity doesn't quite realize their part in that balance. There's a big balance out there for Safeguard, and humanity's just its part. We have that they believe in the maximum good, the greater good. And where an individual falls into that is not always great. And this idea of making the whole, global progressive idea of a one world government, a humanity all working together is a belief. And finally, bipedal and humanoid looking, but clearly alien, has the mirrored eyes, but kind of arrives in places, shifting itself to be accessible to wherever it goes. So while it's alien and definitely not human, it's accessible to wherever it happens to go. And how much of that is just manipulation and how much of that is reaching back and tweaking it is something we will explore. All right. Now in our setup, it talks about finding some inspirational material to guide your contributions to the game. It's for us to look at a few little media sources or interesting things we like and haul that in. I think from what we're talking about, I'll start by saying this reminds me of Babylon 5 and the Vorlons, who had gone in and completely made whole species of people believe that they were angels. So that's a draw for me. I'm also looking a little bit at that X-Men comic that goes into the future, where we have the world dominated by like Archangel and all of those. That hits me a little too. Coming back up, then I'll go with Ryan. Any media source, anything that you want to bring in and you're thinking of for the game?
Nothing right off the top of my head. I'm just going, I haven't seen Babylon 5, so does it matter if we don't get your references?
It doesn't matter. We're all coming in with what we kind of are wanting in there, but you should see Babylon 5.
I know people keep telling me that, but I work in a library. People keep telling me I should read and watch everything all day.
Well, I'm telling you, you should. So any particular things that you're wanting to bring in media-wise, like, and it could be any sort of, movie or comic that you want to spur the inspiration for.
I don't know, the whole Days of Future Past thing kind of works. Maybe come back to me or something. I'm not
Patrick?
I don't know, with the time tinkering manipulation powers, like, I think it's sort of interesting because we're going to have scenes about from the Big H's safeguards point of view and scenes from our point of view. And, from an outside perspective, time just moves smoothly forward. But I sort of think from Safeguard's perspective, we almost hit like an Edge of Tomorrow or Groundhog's Day, where it's going back and repeating the same things over and over again, or trying just different little small tweaks to the same scenario again and again until they get the outcome that they want. So I wouldn't mind some like looping scenes or doing things several times if that comes up as an interesting point.
That'd be really cool. Michael, any thoughts?
I caught the second half of that, Patrick. Did you mention specifically, was it Looper or Edge of Tomorrow that you're referencing specifically?
I was saying Edge of Tomorrow and Groundhog's Day.
Oh, yeah. No, I think those are excellent ideas. I guess the pop culture thing that comes to mind for me would be Miracle Man, if you recall the 80s comic book. If not, then maybe this isn't useful. But basically, the character started out as like a clone, a kind of a copycat of the Captain Marvel Shazam guy. And eventually it evolved under Alan Moore to become basically like this. That actually would be a great Big H story where, the superhumans eventually take over all society and introduce it to an intergalactic community. So clearly that's what's on my mind right now, and hopefully that's a useful touchstone.
That's cool. Kyle, any media comic touchstones that you want to bring in?
I'm trying to think, but I'm not coming up with anything. So
that's cool.
I like all the ones that are being thrown out, though.
And they also bring up, and I'm going to kind of come back down from you, Kyle, and hit you, Ryan, kind of with the other side of kind of news of the day. They suggest things that we see in kind of our real world that we might want to fold in, and it's kind of, they're flags, they're touchstones for each of us to use. Is there anything you're seeing in our world today that you'd like to put up there as a touchstone for us to play with in this?
Sorry, I'm not sure I understand.
The idea would be like looking through, say, looking at the news or looking at this touchstone is like real life sort of things that are going on. So it would be like saying we have global climate change. Is that something we want to bring in as a touchstone? That wasn't mine. So if anybody would like to do it, I think for mine, I guess I'll give an example first. I think a touchstone I want to play with and use is that we're seeing so much interscene fighting. As in, we have wars that are between people of the same country or people in the same region constantly fighting. And I think that's what's going to set off Safeguard as my touchstone to play with. But that's the idea of the touchstones. It's something we see in the real world that might make the Big H go into action, that may make that tipping point. So with that in mind, Kyle, you have a thought or want me to move through?
Maybe swing back to me.
Okay. Michael, any thoughts in the real world that you want to spring on?
Yeah, the one real world phenomenon that I think could fit in really well in the story is the idea of the kind of like the survivalist militia, movement. Basically any kind of groups of people where they so reject mainstream society to the point where they think it's like inherently toxic, and they remove themselves from it, and not just do that, but arm themselves for what they view to be an inevitable conflict. And that stuff scares me in real life. But on the other hand, in this game, we're probably the ones who are going to be doing that. So I think that would be interesting to keep in mind as we shoot the story. And
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, maybe indulgent and throw in a second pop culture reference that just came to mind.
Sure.
V, I think, would be really interesting to play with, or at least the kind of stuff that happens, because you've got this seemingly benevolent alien society. They come in and start helping us, and then you find out that they have sinister means. Not that I think that Safeguard wants to eat us as people, eat us for food or anything like that. I don't think there's a giant lizard person underneath the robot outfit, but I think that just general kind of theme is something that's interesting. And also, I love V, so there it is.
I like V too. Excellent. That seems cool. Patrick, any real world ties you want to bring in? Are happy with what you've heard so far?
Just given the nature of Safeguard, I feel like we're going to touch on things of like cultural appropriation and Safeguard intentionally playing on people's ingrained beliefs and responses, and sort of that question of do they have the right to the culture that they're manipulating, since they actually went back and manipulated it in the first hand, or is this culture all a lie? It's very sort of Inception-y with society.
I like that. That's very cool. Yeah. And Cambridge Analytical, you're right, Michael. Yes, it's just reading the pool there. It in Safeguard. Ryan, anything real world and with what we set up you want to bring in, or comments on what we said?
Mine kind of looped into the Cambridge Analytica angle. So I was thinking the security versus privacy thing where it wants to keep us all safe, but to what extent do you kind of give up your own rights for that?
Awesome. And that plays with that militia thing where, again, we look at these militias, you know, most reasonable people look at these militias and go, holy crap, that's dangerous. But we may be in a situation where that's our allies. Kyle, I'll come back to you. Any thoughts you have in this?
Yeah, I guess just like, I can imagine like, you know, like feelings of like doom and like, you know, things collapsing and all that. And I would imagine Safeguard, kind of like alleviating all that, you know, all these big problems that feel insurmountable, and, you know, it just solves it for people, and hooray for now.
I like that.
Almost like it came in right when we're at the point of destroying ourselves anyway, and that's why people are all too happy to cooperate.
That seems very relevant to the moment of self-created problems that someone says they're going to come and fix, doesn't it? Excellent. Okay, I think we've come up with a pretty cool idea here, a really cool concept. Do we all feel like we have a grip on what Safeguard is? Does anyone have any questions they want to ask, you know, amongst ourselves? Because I think we got a cool idea. So we're going to go into the first phase, and that's the Halcyon days. We're going to narrate scenes about the Big H's iconic accomplishments before they fell from grace. Keep them uncomplicatedly heroic. Yes, Patrick?
Do we not need to make our characters?
Oh, I suppose we do. Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me see. Actually, do we do that first?
It doesn't really say anything about when you make characters in here that I can find.
That's true.
Or even how if you make occasionally refers to having one.
Yeah, we make our characters off of our, we're going to be rolling a very simple mechanic regardless, so we're able to do most whatever we want. I think we actually do these Halcyon days, but we probably should create who we are as people.
Yeah, and it talks about reactions will be our younger pre-hero selves.
Right.
So we need to know who we are.
Yeah, I wonder if it almost sounds like we make the characters as we go through the phases. Like we just kind of make it up as the story goes on.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're gonna show these awesome things. Each of us is gonna create a scene of Safeguard doing the amazing stuff. And then I think we'll all go through and introduce who we are. So let's, have in your mind who you're deciding to be, but we'll each be framing a scene first of just saying what awesome shit Safeguard has done for our world in our kind of lifetime. Does that sound right?
One thing. Oh, yes, Patrick?
No, go ahead, Michael.
Oh, one thing that we may want to settle on, just two thoughts. One, it may be worthwhile just to come up with if we share just like very quick, like just one sentence concepts for what our heroes would be, just to make sure we don't step on each other's toes, unless we, it's not to say that we can't, make characters that are kind of similar in ability. But the second thing is maybe we should have at the very least established whether or not supers exist before the coming of the Safeguard, or if any supers that come into being are like kind of like a result of Safeguard's influence, or if who knows, maybe it came to Earth because supers started appearing. But that's probably something we should all be on the same page on at the very least.
That's a good point. We'll go at it with a vote, I suppose. I like the idea that there have been the mystery man type of superhero or heroes, and in the last 40, 50 years, we've seen the rise of like supered heroes. That's my thought. Patrick, what is your thought on the state of superherodom in our world?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Michael, thoughts that you have on this?
I'm fine with supers having already existed for a certain amount of time, years to decades beforehand. I do like the idea that I had presented of maybe the supers are the reason Safeguard came to Earth. I would suggest that maybe not any supers that are native to Earth that have come before Safeguard aren't at Safeguard's level, like nothing cosmic or reality rewriting. Maybe something along the lines of like, I don't know, like X-Men level, outside of Phoenix, or Justice League outside of like Superman, but nothing quite at that level until Safeguard shows up. So
Okay. Do we think, Ryan? What do you feel on that scale? And do we think like supervillains only arise at the same time? Are we seeing the rise of superheroes now, or is it something long term?
I like that, the super people have only been around for a few decades or something, or fairly recently, and not like last week. I feel like that's too close a timeline, but that they're not a fairly new phenomena, and that therefore super villains are too. And I also like what Michael, sorry, I'm not quite pairing the names to the faces. I can mouse over and cheat. Ha, there we go. Yes. What Michael was saying, where it's like we've got, the Phoenix and then like the cast of X-Men Evolution or something, where there's a big power gap. I like that.
Cool. I do too. Kyle, what do you think on this?
Yeah, I feel the same way. All of this sounds great,
Cool. Patrick, any thoughts to add in? Okay. So it sounds like we've had a buildup of there being super beings. And then once we have Safeguard show up, kind of Safeguard's the biggest of everything. And, the lower levels have been doing, Power Man and Iron Fist stuff. And then we have, Big H, we have Safeguard handling every bit of the Justice League for us. Sound good? Okay. Again, I'm looking over the chart because I'm trying to run it as it's set, and in my mind I had a thought, but we're going to be saying great things about what Safeguard has done, but we may need to know a little bit about who we are to be able to react to it, because each of us is going to make a scene, and someone else can react to it at any point during it. Or, once it's over, any one of us can choose to react.
Well, how about this? Maybe we go around the circle, give like high concept 30-second pitches for what we're thinking about what our superheroes might become, and then maybe take a 5-minute break to like let all of the stuff about Big H and what sort of scenes we might want to do sort of percolate and come back to it.
That sound good to everyone? Cool. All right then. I'll take lead and pitch mine. I am going to I think I'm going to go with an empath. I think I'm going with a female who is a more effective Deanna Troi. I believe I actually can read the emotions and can really, understand the emotions coming at me. And at the same time, I think I can project my emotions into other people. Other than that, though, I'm probably pretty fragile. But as a part of it, I can, I could be a good sneak because I can do that emotion-y bit to have people not pay attention. So, I could be in a fight someone who makes the connection enough that they don't want to hurt me because we care about each other so much. So I think I'm going with an emotional empath. Ryan, have an idea?
Yeah, I'm thinking teleportation, but not like Nightcrawler style, more like Blink, where you're thinking with portals. And it's kind of unwieldy, but you could potentially throw stuff through them.
Excellent. Patrick?
I think maybe like a supernaturally gifted hacker who sort of over time becomes like a digital ghost. Not someone who's, 'cause I don't really like the like I'm in a coma but I'm super powerful for it or whatever. But just someone whose body is far away, not really near any sort of the action usually, but goes out as a digital spirit, which is sort of a low-key power set that's made much more powerful by the world that we live in. The ubiquity of technology makes this little bit of cybermantic manipulation actually really effective.
Oh, that's cool. Neat. Michael?
Well, that's a good quick. I had an idea for what I wanted to do, but I took it back. I was going to create a character that would be able to figure out that yes, in fact, Safeguard has been going back in time and making manipulations to affect our development. But I wonder if it might be best played as like something that we suppose rather than something we could prove. So, because I was going to make a character that could like read, that could somehow visualize or detect alterations to the time stream. But
I think that would actually be pretty cool, sort of a seer Cassandra type set.
So my absolute favorite psychic power is psychometry, which is just being able to read the background of things. And if you can read that it's been garbled and rewritten, that would be super cool.
Yeah, well, okay.
So however you want to spin that is A-okay with me.
Okay, you know, I'm a big fan of the psychometry myself, but yeah, I think if no one else is going to cover that, then yeah, I'll run for it. I'll run with it for now, sure.
Awesome. That's cool. Because that ends up having a ton of applications as a superhero, because you could be that super sleuth and all sorts of cool shit. Kyle, what's that hero you're making?
Yeah, I keep gravitating back to. So I always like heroes that don't actually have anything super about them, like just high tech and just like a person with the right tools. So I'm kind of imagining like a high tech ninja kind of person, you know, infiltrate into places, jump off buildings with ropes, that jam.
Awesome. Super cool.
What's that you say? A superhero that actually punches people?
That is something that I'm noticing, is that we're not really we're not a slugfest team. That'll make things interesting.
Just not, punches like a truck.
Right? Yeah. Well, sure. That's true. You can fight, but yeah, definitely no one who can throw buildings around.
All right, cool. Well, then let's. I agree, Patrick. Let's take a few minutes and let's kind of internalize what we're making for our own characters. Get an idea of what we think. I mean, Safeguard seems wonderful, but there's a lot of room for that to be abused in what we've seen from Safeguard. And I suppose we should all come back with a name. So let's take 7 minutes and come back at 9:20 or whatever time it is for you, 20 after the hour. See y'all then.
Okay, I might need a few minutes more than that, but I'll try to make it as close to 9:20 as possible.
That's cool.
Okay, cool.
You come up with your name? I think I'm going to go with Bleed.
Huh.
I think it's interesting you're going technical because we have a Big H that's a robot, so that could be played with some. That'll be neat. I'll say I think once we get into the phases, it's all going to smooth out a bit.
Hope so.
It's a very interesting game. There's a lot to it for 4 pages. And you know me, I love doing background. We lost Kyle.
Oh no!
Oh no. Hi, Ryan. Have you thought of a name for your teleporter?
Just had an oh crap moment because I was like, gotta remember to do this and this on the break and not.
He just did the exact same thing to me, and I had the same reaction. Also, let's see.
Ooh.
It's Blink!
And I completely failed to find the mute button after I just clicked it. Yes! Cool Blink figure.
I think I'm naming my superhero Bleed.
Which isn't
Sorry,
helpful
James,
because
went a
that's
bit too
really
far.
good.
I'm hoping Kyle finds his way back. And didn't have some Canadian storm brew up. So we're waiting on folks, but I'll go ahead and say to you two, what we'll do is we're going to do these phases, the Halcyon days, and we're going to narrate the awesome things Big H did, the awesome things that Safeguard managed to do to protect and be awesome and cool. And we'll each do one of those. Hi, Michael. We lost Kyle all of a sudden. Hopefully he will be back.
Did Safeguard remove him from the timeline?
Oh, shit.
Oh no.
He was just too skilled to be out there.
I've got a question. I'm actually starting to rethink my concept, I'm afraid. But
Okay, that's fine.
so our ideas, the ideas are, there's 4 ideals: protecting the innocent, intergalactic equilibrium, the good of the many, and progressive globalism. So does that mean when we play out the scenes, if we betray those ideas, we lose righteousness tokens?
No. Those are the Big H's ideals.
Okay.
We're going to, when we do that, here, let me pull up that page.
Yeah, because it's part of that where it doesn't talk specifically about how to make your characters, because in an example it has a sample character saying that they picked up one of the Big H's ideals and went further with it as their personal ideal, but I don't know if that's necessary or just what that character did.
I don't think that's necessary. I think that's just what that character did. I think that as we are going through, And you know, we'll start with you before hero, and as you're coming up to hero, we're supposed to be kind of expressing those ideals that are ours, the things we think are important and worth fighting for. And you know, in the fiction, in the narrative, we'll have those opportunities to stand up for what we believe is right or betray them. And that's how we'll get our, you know, play with our token chart there. But
So-
I don't think we all have the big H's.
Okay.
Idea.
It sounds like we're supposed to have at least one of them, though, because like paragraph 2 says we share ideals with the big H, and it's got a capital I ideal.
It does say that. Then probably we should look across there and see if there's one of those that fits. Yeah, Ryan, thank you. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
I've been spending so much time rereading this, trying to deduce how it wants characters to work.
Yeah, I've read this thing like half a dozen times in whole and pieces and parts, more than a dozen. But yeah, you're exactly right. The big I.
Well, then how about this as a sort of structure to put on it? Because we've got two very solid, like, build-up rounds of scenes for us, the zeros and then the heroes.
Mm-hmm.
So how about at the end of each person's zeros scene, at that point we can choose each of us one of the big H's ideals that we follow and sort of how we interpret it. And then maybe at the end of each hero's scene, we can add a personal ideal that goes along with that. Because I do think having the ideals sort of clarified is going to be important, because it talks later about like judging whether other people have broken their ideals or not.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe like round 1 of hero scenes, we get a big H1. Round 2 of hero scenes, we put in an ideal of our own. So
That's a nice idea. Y'all good with that?
Yeah. Although now I'm thinking that maybe my character, it almost sounds like there may have been supers before Safeguard's arrival, but it does sound like we become heroes after Big H shows up. So okay, I think yeah. Let me yeah. Well, looks like Kyle's back.
Yeah.
And I might need a second to because I was having a hard time envisioning how my powers would work based on what we talked about. But then I started thinking, well, maybe I should base the characters on my character on the ideas rather than the power, the potential power set. And I think that might be an easier way to come to something. But I'll work on that right now.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Find your
we can't get started. Yeah.
Find your spot you're comfortable with it. And Kyle, we've been sitting here talking about that. Kind of, we're all piecing apart the game together. Looking at it, it seems like each of us share at least one of the big H's ideals. But we also have, we have things we ourselves believe. But we should look, kind of on those setups of the ideals that protecting the innocent, protecting the balance in kind of a galactic sense. The greater good is more important than the individual, and that kind of globalistic one world idea. So we were talking about we should all have a name to start with, at least for our character. I'm going with my superhero name is Bleed, and I think I'm going to go with Lisa Mallow as my not heroic name. Lisa. Kyle, you got a name for your hero?
I'm working on it. I know the idea I want, but I haven't found the name that feels right yet.
That's cool. Anybody got a name for their hero? And if not, that's cool.
I think I figured out what my character. Oh, sorry. Go.
Oh, yep. You go first.
I think I figured out what I want my concept to be, and I think I've decided that my character is going to be embracing, at the very least, the idea of international community. And I think, and this is based on an article I read a couple months ago, I think I'm going to play a Chinese character who was who's part of a big project to try to contact alien life. And I suspect that I think maybe this character actually managed to make contact with, not with the Safeguard, but with like some other alien entity that gave him or her powers. Like almost kind of a Green Lantern thing. That's independent of it may not even be part of the community that the Safeguard represents. But that's generally what we're working on right now.
Cool. And again, what we're going to do here, we're doing our first phase. So we're each going to lay out something awesome that Safeguard did. And then once it's finished, I'll ask if someone has a reaction. We can all have a reaction to it if we'd like. I think in doing that is going to give our opportunity to narrow down some of these characters. You know, we'll know for sure who they are by the reactions. But Patrick, do you have a name, or have you settled on something of yours?
Damn it. Why am I never muted when I think I am? I went with Ghost Script.
Ooh. Nice.
And I think he's a he.
Okay. Bleed is a she. If anybody feels like naming one out, we do so now. If not, I think we're going to do our first halcyon scene.
I picked a name. I just wasn't talking over people. I'm Egress. She, her.
Oh, I like that. Egress.
Or egress. It's one of the words that I know written down, but never hear.
It just always makes me think of a bad Piers Anthony Xanth joke.
Thank you. Cool name. All right. Any other names?
Yeah, I think I got one. I think the onlooker. I think he's like, yeah, I think of the ideals. I think he was very much about protecting, the innocent, probably from like a rough neighborhood, and was like, watching the streets all the time. So people started,
Oh, that's cool.
looking up to the skies, nervously as they were doing their bad things.
I think I'll take a page from you, and I'll go ahead and lay down my my ideal too. I believe in that globalistic progressive thing. I think that Bleed believes all people are one and doesn't believe in any sort of national lines and all that sort of stuff. So I think I'm going to fall in that globalism. Just to lead out. And cool, we've got names for everybody but you, Michael. Want a minute for a name?
Sure, yeah. In English, the name translates as Celestial Champion. And according to Google Translate, that goes Tianti Guang Yun. I don't know how to pronounce that, so my apologies. But that's, yeah, Celestial Champion, you could call it. And I'm thinking of kind of like maybe a bit of maybe certainly not Superman level, maybe more of like Nova from Marvel Comics, because Nova was kind of a Green Lantern ripoff in a way. But maybe just a general, strong and can fly and that sort of thing. But yeah, that's the name.
I got you. So concepts moving away from that seer, and instead we're going with a Superman type.
Yeah, more general. Yeah, I'm kind of focusing more on the ideas than the creative power set. So we'll see how it goes.
All right. Neat. Well, we're going to do the Halcyon Days. We're going to narrate a scene. The Big H's iconic accomplishments. Anybody feel like volunteering for the first scene? Raise your hand. Say something. Or I'll do it. Then I'll do it. And so... I think pretty early on, the early 60s, there's so much turmoil in the world. And so we see streaking across a night sky a great comet that lands in the Midwest of the United States. A massive crater. Of course, we have the military coming around, and out from its steps, Safeguard. In a voice that booms across the plains, Safeguard, I have come to help. I have come to save you all. We see a montage of course, the United States government very upset that this strange being has come in. What's going on here? This can't be right. And, but Safeguard begins moving through the streets, stopping mobsters, handling gangs. And then, when there is the worst of all standoffs, a nuclear threat, Safeguard goes and generates a meeting between the Soviets and the Americans, saying that no, this is not the way you should be living. We have a world to take care of. And we have like the flash bulbs of the newspaper with Halcyon. I'm sorry, with Safeguard holding the hands of Khrushchev and Kennedy, holding them up as they have come to this wonderful agreement where Safeguard will in fact defend their borders, and that there will not be this reason to keep building up arms. And it's this first moment where Safeguard comes in and kind of tells governments, I'm not going to let you blast each other to pieces. And governments sort of bow down to it. This is the mid-60s at this point. Any of our heroes alive? Any reactions are coming from their parents? Who has a reaction to that? I think we all should probably take one. Patrick?
I'm just trying to come up with a name for my character, like a real person name, which is just as hard as a superhero name. But I think what we see is a young version of Ghost Script in like early high school, who we sort of pull back from that handshake / like a victorious picture with the two leaders and Safeguard there, and it's in like a computer screen, and this is Ghost Script at like in school learning about history and the history of things going on, and I think he's just sort of like dreaming about the ability to have that sort of impact on the world, on history, on people, that they're teaching a class about you.
Nice. How about Egress? Reaction to that first scene?
I think that like little Egress at some point had to like write a report about the day that the Safeguard brokered peace between the United States and the Soviet Union, and why everything is so much better now, and that kind of stuff. And maybe there was a terrible educational film attached to it or something. Yes.
All right. Then Celestial Champion, probably a very different viewpoint out of China.
Yeah, so this is the early 60s, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we have any general sense about like when the climax will happen? Will it happen in like the 80s or modern times, or will it be all in the 60s and 70s? Will this be an entirely period piece?
I sort of imagine us being roughly contemporary, so 2000 plus,
Okay.
before Big H takes over everything.
Yeah, I was just trying to.
My hero concept is going to work best in a modern day setting.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if this is going to be my character's reaction or my parents' characters' reactions.
I depending, unless you want to be of the age for it, I think it's probably parents.
Okay, definitely parents. So my parents, and the name may actually be Celestial Astronomer, and there may be like a catchy English translation that like Stargaze, for a cool marketable English concept. So Stargaze / Celestial Astronomer. But the astronomer's parents are basically, since we may as well get into the whole Christian thing, or the whole I should say, world religion manipulation thing. They are Christian activists in communist China, and they're not super. I was just Wikipediaing this as you were finishing narrating your scene, and while they aren't, at least if I'm reading this correctly, in the early '60s, Christianity was an outright banned in China. They're certainly frowned upon. It's a couple years, or at least in normal history, it's a couple years before they get like outright banned. So we'll say his parents, or maybe even. Maybe if they're young enough, they can still be parents. Sure, we're kind of like Christian activists, and they're basically the scene would be kind of like them spreading propaganda and maybe getting harassed by the local police, and and you almost it might be a scene where that starts before Safeguard debuts, back when he's still in his studying Earth phase, because they're basically just at first you see the parents just basically passing around general Christian doctrine pamphlets, the way that it was normally understood to be in history. But then maybe you see Safeguard studying Earth society, and then starting to reach back into the time stream and manipulate things. And then all of a sudden, you kind of see the pamphlets are passing out now, starting to bear imagery of something suspiciously similar to the Safeguard, and starting to talk about like new revealed texts, almost like a third testament, like a newer testament or something like that. And then when the Safeguard debuts, that these like formerly faceless or relatively anonymous activists are now like leading like the beginning of a big push to support the Safeguard and embrace its mission. And certainly as the United States and Soviet Union come to terms under the help of the Safeguard, Communist China is thinking, well, maybe we should get in on this action, especially since so many of our people are starting to clamor for this. And then we'll see how these people affect one of our heroes in the future in, I guess, the next phase.
Awesome. Cool. Kyle, what do we see out of Onlooker?
So I think the first time that he remembers hearing about these events was from his father. One night they were sitting in their apartment, and his father was probably drunk and all riled up. And his father like probably came from like a family of soldiers, like his grandfather was in whatever war and blah blah blah. And yeah, so his father's like very distrustful of Safeguard, and like a little bitter, that like there was this great war coming, or like this conflict coming, and I was going to be great in it, blah 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 blah, and now he's some smuck in a city. So yeah,
nice.
He probably like started to speak up a little bit about like, but isn't this good? And like quickly got shut down by his dad, and he just like,
Oh, I love that. Actual resentment from the father over there being peace. Oh, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so cool. All right. So we've seen my first one. Ryan, I'm just gonna go up the line. Why don't we see from you an iconic moment of safeguards helping the world?
I'm trying to think historically.
You can place it anywhere. I put mine way back, but you can have yours be at any point along the way.
I'm going to go super generic then. So it's not as flashy or as amazing as having, brokered peace between the U.S. and the USSR, and actually it wasn't the USSR then, was it? I don't know. History. But once there was cruise ship or something that ended up being, what's the word for it? Their engine stopped working out at sea, and everyone was, oh no, what are we going to do? And people were trying to figure out how they were going to get to them. But before they could arrange a rescue plan or anything, Safeguard was there and could rescue the ship entirely by himself, because it wasn't even a big deal. That's like running to the store for milk for Safeguard. But it made a huge impression on, again, young Egress, that he took some time out of his day doing great big things to do a slightly smaller thing.
Oh, awesome. Patrick, reaction?
I'm not sure.
All right. Michael, reaction to that, maybe?
At the moment, I don't think I have a good reaction to that.
All right. Kyle, have a reaction to that one?
Yeah. I can imagine Onlooker, just like going about his day-to-day life, and like a news feed, catching his eye out of the corner, and he like stops on the street and watches the news report of this, and yeah, he's just got lots of admiration for whatever his name is that I forgot. Safeguard. Yeah, great admiration for Safeguard, and feeling real good about things.
Awesome. I think that we see Bleed sitting in kind of this quiet little study. Maybe even it might even look kind of like a tarot reading parlor that she runs. And as she's sitting there talking with one of her clients, you're concerned for someone. I sense they're all right. You don't need to worry. Safeguard was there. Patrick, have a reaction, or want to let that one go?
Yeah, I think I do have a reaction. As we go again to the newspaper shot of the rescue there, and I think it all sort of shifts to like a toy boat in like a little splash pool, and like a toy figure of Safeguard, who is of course like comically missized for the boat. But we get an even younger Ghost Script who's out in like his backyard, and he like in this one Safeguard comes down and like scoops up the whole boat and carries it in his arms back safely to land, and all of the various little like He-Mans and Silverhawks and whatever, they're like cheering for Safeguard. Oh, it's the best rescue ever!
Awesome. All right then, Michael. why don't we have a halcyon moment for Safeguard from you?
All right. Well, a classic Safeguard moment was when he managed to broker the, I guess the Global Faith Council, having a unification of all the world's great faiths, and persuades them to focus on what unites them rather than what the dogma that divides everyone. And because this is a comic book, I'm sure there's like a big super bro with maybe some super villains, maybe like some let's call this 80s, because that was kind of like the peak of the classic peak of the the televangelist movement. So like some really popular televangelists maybe went full super villain, and tried to resist and eventually start a super war against Safeguard before, and of course the good guys win. Maybe let's say he calls himself let's say the televangelist proclaim he basically gets all his donations, spends all his millions of donations to build a super tech suit and become Crusader X, and he actually founds like a whole super team of people. He actually like, it must be like all the world's, let's say it's all the world's like reactionaries, like everyone who resists it. So there's actually like I don't know, like an Islamic extremist, like the 80s version, like maybe someone who might have otherwise been fighting in Afghanistan, but instead is fighting a war in here. And it's like this odd coalition of former enemies who have united against Safeguard. And let's say that maybe just to get the 80s. Let's see if it's 2000s. Yeah, you know what? Let's say that this is the debut of Stargaze. Let's call it Stargazer. The celestial astronomer. Like maybe that's where he debuts as one of the as one of the big heroes who supports Safeguard at the time. So let's call it that.
Ooh, I love it. And so this interfaith council facing off against the extremist wings, the Ayatollah, and the Orthodox on your head. All right, that's a hell of a moment. Kyle, a reaction out of you from that, out of the onlooker?
I just want to make sure I got that clear. So coalition of like reactionaries, and they were against Safeguard?
Against Safeguard's uniting of the world's religions, because they thought it was blasphemous or like a diluting or an unhealthy intrusion in
as they would.
Faith.
Right.
Yes. It takes place in the mid 80s. So lots of hairspray and all that stuff, lots of neon costumes, all that good stuff. And there'd be like extremists of every major faith. There could even be a radical atheist. Who knows? But that's basically what I was envisioning.
Yeah, I think again in this, he would be quite young. So yeah, maybe again it's maybe his father is like worked into that somehow, or a supporter, maybe not directly involved because he's just some guy in the city. But yeah, maybe like he has a memory of like his dad bringing home like pamphlets of why this is terrible and like why we should all be concerned.
Is that he's concerned that Safeguard's making this one kind of united religion, or is he concerned with the radicals?
No, he probably agrees with the radicals. He's probably
Gotcha.
He doesn't like. Yeah, he thinks what Safeguard is doing is
Ooh, I like that. Oh, that's cool.
I don't know if this at all it could be what you'd envision, but what if I imagine there'd be a lot of like foot soldiers in this this new coalition. Could it be possible that your father what could have been maybe like a costume minion, almost like how like Hydra has like all the all the foot soldiers in costume, shouting. Could your father have been one of those for this or this alliance of
what do you think of that, Cal? Or is he just a normal guy dealing with the situation?
Yeah, I think I've been picturing him being very opinionated, but probably wouldn't actually act very much in most situations.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. So like one of the silent but not so silent majority, they're saying, no, this is wrong.
Right.
Cool. Okay. I think I'll do mine real quick. I see Lisa in the 80s, probably a young professional girl. She's got the shoulder pad suit on. She's in her early 20s. She's got the big hair, and she's out there doing business. Tyler doesn't know how to do business, but she does, and she's really good at it. So we see montages of her in boardrooms going, I don't think so, and stuff like that. But as she sees that Safeguard is ending the strife between these religions, something touches her. That's when we see her turn to her very obnoxious 80s boss, probably it's got to be like Michael Douglas, and go, no, I'm not fired. You're fired. And she leaves. As she decides to get away from this, and she's bought into this. We all can live in harmony. And that's my recollection. Ryan.
Megan is younger than it seems like most of the crew here and has no real memory of this happening, but it does remember her parents grumbling at one point about how, it's nice to have more unity and everything, but what if we lost along the way? And she's like, but being nice and not wanting to kill each other is a good thing, right? And just not getting the point at all, because she grew up with this, and it's definitely a good thing.
Awesome. Cool. Patrick, reaction on that one?
So I think we're back to a teenage ghost script who's on the internet, on forums, and there's just I think various secret or clandestine denominations that are still left over in the world. They have places online, they have forums that they go to. They get into sort of flaming hate wars about rising up against Safeguard's utilitarian, universalist religion, the Blessnet. And I think you see Ghostscript in there, and he's just angrily typing back at trolls, and he's bringing up all of these statistics of all of the pogroms and various violence against Jewish people over the millennia, and the historic violence in Ireland, and how many people were killed in all of that. And just things like that, where he's bringing up all of these look at these various horrible atrocities that have been done in the past, and now why wouldn't you embrace universalism? Why wouldn't you see that we're all worshiping the same thing? I mean, that's what Safeguard is here. They're a representation of the sameness of all of our beliefs. You can see it in the way that they walk smoothly from one icon to another, angrily typing back at people that don't want to hear it.
Awesome. Oh, that's so very good. Kyle, why don't you present us with a halcyon scene?
Yeah. So I think that this is like fast forwarded closer to the present day. And yeah, I think so. I think onlookers lives in a poorer neighborhood. Lots of crime and trouble. And there's many such places like this. And Safeguard, maybe he like enacts this technology computer thing to police forces, all around the world. Gives them like a super leg up, like, maybe he's using his time manipulation. It just like it
Nice.
gives them all the bad things that are going to happen. And
Kind
like,
of a Minority Report almost.
yeah, totally.
Oh.
And so like, almost overnight, the world becomes a much safer place for most folks.
Oh, that's fantastic. Michael, I'll come back down the other way. What do you react to that? The world is safe. Criminals.
Yeah, I think boy, that's yeah, I tried to envision how that would affect my character and his family. Let's say but we're not getting dark yet, because we're not, he's not, or it's not, Safeguard is not losing their way yet. So I think it's I think Safeguard's prediction technology has prevented the, let's say, a lot of the tumult and chaos that took place in China throughout the the 70s and into the 80s. And I imagine it would be used by the government. Maybe like the Tiananmen massacre never happened, and maybe that's because it just helped the Chinese government keep a lockdown on things, and which might seem great for now, but later on you might start to see how that was not necessarily a great thing. I'm going to say that the reaction was maybe let's say since Stargazer I envision being just kind of like a general super smart person, was maybe consulting on one of the kind of like a preliminary psychic development program with the Chinese government, and they're starting to uncover. Maybe they just uncover like one person with who is slightly registering slight psionic ability, and maybe having nightmares of the timeline where all the bad stuff that the Safeguards technology was able to predict and help prevent actually happens. So, but at the time, it's just dismissed as just a bad effect of psionics gone wrong.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, so you're aware of these things that could have happened, but they didn't. Safeguard stopped it. Oh, that's neat. Patrick, reaction. If you have one.
So, I think Ghostscript, let's say it's comic book world. I think Ghostscript grew up in New York City, the most supervillain beplagued city on the planet. And so I think what we actually see is not something quite from Ghostscript's point of view, but we sort of get a montage shot of like the world from Safeguard's point of view, as we see like shots of Ghost Script going through his day, just normal day out on the streets, and like he's obliterated in a shower of meteors that comes down, and like an evil supervillain is riding down after them, and there's like a bank heist where the cars are running away, and Ghost Script gets like hit by one of the cars, and it's just scene after scene of all of these random incidents like crimes or supervillain attacks or even natural disasters that keep happening over and over again to New York, and Ghost Script just gets caught up in a lot of them, but of course none of them ever happened really in the end. In the end, it's all undone and he comes back and it's fine, and he just doesn't even really realize all of these layers of time and reality that are going on around him.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's neat. Ryan, reaction? If you have one.
I don't think I've got a good one for this.
Okay. That's cool too. So we have only you, Patrick, left for a Halcyon Day, right? Are you our last Halcyon Day?
Am I?
I think so.
Okay. So I think again we're going a little in the past here. We're going to the late '80s, but we're also layering a little bit before that, because of course everyone today knows that ever since that historic clash between Safeguard and the Iron Curtain, that the world hasn't been the same. That weather has been off the charts. That storms and especially like hurricane seasons have gotten incredibly deadly and huge, and there are these almost like sentient, sometimes seeming storms that seem to like hunt down large city centers and stuff like that. And so I think the scene itself is we see Safeguard with a crew of his crack elite teams, people that are decked out in similar sort of uniforms and tech as Safeguard. But it's these teams that he leads into the middle of these like horrifying nightmare storms, because at least according to him, like even he just by himself can't affect all of the changes, do all the things that are necessary to calm these storms before they hit land. And if they ever did hit land, it would be awful. And I think this is like 1989 Atlantic coast. It's Hurricane Hugo coming in to hit Charleston, but meteorologists have these predictive maps of how it's just going to like tear up the eastern seaboard, fracture some of the states there. And it's stopped by Safeguard and his team. They go into the middle of this storm, and there are stories and stories about their heroic actions. But there's also this like very public funeral where Safeguard is giving this speech to people about the ones that he couldn't save, the ones from his team that gave their lives for the future, gave their lives for the safety and the continuance of everyone else. That sometimes the world isn't perfect, sometimes some events just can't be stopped, but that they knew what they were giving up their lives for, and that every one of them would have done it 1,000 times over, sort of thing.
Oh, that's good. I think I'm going to get by reaction. I think we see in these late 80s a now, 28, 29-year-old Bleed. She's still, the shoulder pads have gotten smaller, but she's still got pretty big hair. And she's there at one of these memorial services. And as Safeguard is saying this, and the people are listening, she feels their trust. She feels their hope. Safeguard is with us. Even if some of us are lost, it's going to be okay. Because together with Safeguard, it's all going to get better. And I think we see her leave that that memorial service, and I think she's a New Yorker too. And she's walking through the Gauntlet, the Garment District, back to her little apartment. And she stops as she picks up this bolt of purple spandex and sort of rubs it. And that's where we cut her scene.
And I think just for a character thing for me there, I think that's where I'm pulling in. I'm going to take the good of the many as my Safeguard ideal.
Excellent. Michael, reaction if you have one.
Yeah, so this big cataclysm, let's say, I'm going to say the Stargazer, since we've now established that he debuts in the mid 80s. He's been in the game for just a couple of years at this point. We're going to say that one of the supers that fell in controlling the cataclysmic weather and climate effects was probably like a former love, or was a love until she had died, and he was, of course, heartbroken by it all, by that, and we'll let's see, let's call her Hypernova, and she was I don't know, from some country that's not China, because I envision the Safeguard having a pretty international crew. And we're going to say that she, since we're still in the Big H is awesome phase mode, that the Safeguard's leadership and expressed empathy through this time just really kind of cemented Stargazer's devotion to Safeguard and the mission.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent. Kyle, how about Onlooker when we see the death of heroes?
Yeah, I think Onlooker, or Tommy is his real name. Yeah, he would have been like a teenager at this point, probably like just about to finish high school. And yeah, he would have been watching this memorial, at home on his computer. And yeah, just like super admiration for these people who did this great deed. And I think it was like a big inspirational moment for him. Kind of the point where he decided that he was going to do something, like try to live up, try to someday be a person like that. And yeah, that probably set him on his path to looking out for all the little people out there. And
awesome. So we see that kind of the steel get into the backbone, and we know a hero has been born. Oh, I love it. Ryan, how about Egress? What reaction, if any, do we see from the death of heroes?
I think we see, like, years later, maybe her parents or something arguing that, like, yes, it was a nice speech, but it's because all of them died. And she's going, well, that's because they did what they had to and everything. And we have a heroic duty, and Safeguard would understand that. And totally, like, jamming a super suit into her backpack or something.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Okay. Well, we've made it through the Halcyon days, and I think we should go right into the Zeros, because it sounds like we have heroes who will be Zeros not much longer. You'll see in the phase zeros, your characters are obscure lone heroes. Threats should be low-key, either mundane or low-powered supervillains. What we're going to do with this is we're going to have someone who is going to be telling about, they're in their beginning of superherodom. Somebody else is going to be the villain. A villain has the ability to kind of frame the entire scene, and it says you can do whatever the hell you want and not even ask for a roll, but I think we should probably ask for rolls. I think that would be nice. So I think I'm going to go with people volunteering or picking out someone who's a villain who sets a scene of what's going on. And then one of the heroes can jump in and say, okay, I'm taking that one.
Well, that's not exactly what it says. It's you as the hero frame your scene. Describe where they are and what's happening, but stop short of introducing any adversity.
Right, and then somebody comes in as villain.
You set the groundwork, then the villain comes in and.
Okay, well then we'll go hero facing, I suppose. Then, Patrick, why don't you start us off as the hero and set us a scene, and we'll see if we can find a villain for you.
So I think for this we focus in on a sort of blinding and confusing world of your classic like dive into cyberspace sort of animation. So there's all these lights and everything passing. It's for some reason built like roads and buildings because all dives into cyberspace are. And I think we're seeing a Ghost script who's staring up at this giant skyscraper. There's the logo of like a really irresponsible and toxic financial institution. Something that some group that's been doing like PQS. Why not? Random letters. That's the corporation.
Halliburton.
But they've been playing with the market in irresponsible ways and inflating things. They've been screwing people out of their money and bleeding off life savings from people that can't afford it. And I think Ghost Script is here. He's going to do something. He's chased trolls off of forums. He's tracked down purse snatchers and things like that. But he's got some inside information. He has something that can take them down, and he's here, and he's gonna do something. Damn it!
Cool. All right then. Who would like to be the villain for this? Who wants to set this obstacle? Anybody feel like being the awful big corp? Come on.
I'll give it a whirl. Sure.
There you go, Michael.
And this is the 80s still, right?
No.
Okay.
This would be This would be fairly recentish. So let's say like 2012.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to say that it's a sentient virus is the villain of this piece. We'll call it. Let's see. Some good computer names. I just look. Yeah, let's call it. We'll call it. Just to get something out there, we'll call it Blastcom. Let's just call it Blastcom. Sure, why not? And yes, it's a sentient virus that was developed by maybe some rogue military team of illicit hackers, and it took a life of its own, and now it just goes around randomly creating, or perhaps not randomly, creating chaos throughout electronic systems all over the world. And I'm supposed to set up the full-on threat, right?
Yeah, he's Patrick he's stopping the big corp, and your villain is in the way.
Yeah, and I think that's probably my like superhero in here is I'd track down the history of that virus, and I see its fingerprints all over what's going on here at PQS.
Oh right, yeah. I was wondering if maybe it was PQS that created Blastcom, but yeah, maybe that's when you maybe it's actually Blastcom is basically taking it over like a virus, like a parasite. It's latched itself onto the computer records and systems of PDS, and what you may have thought is they're the creators. They are plenty evil on their own, but in this case they're the victim. And now you've got the quandary of, well, do you save PDS from or PQS from Blastcom, knowing that Blastcom is ultimately the greater threat, or do you say, let's let Blastcom have some fun because these guys deserve it, and then we'll deal with it later. So there's your moral quandary to go with the big throwdown.
So I think as Ghostscript gets into the digital building here and is starting to be faced with like all of these like mutated virus programs, antibodies that are coming after him, I think he does the obvious move that anybody in a sort of semi-psychic or other space does when they need combat, which is pull up a Roman shield and sword, because that's the only thing you can fight spiritual or high-tech constructs with. And of course this Ghostscript is very much into the sort of like dream wish fulfillment of video games. So yeah, I think he starts slashing through, and in the adrenaline and the I'm actually beating up mooks, I'm in here doing a mission sort of thrill of it all, I think he stops thinking about and doesn't consider sort of the implications of what he might be doing to PQS, their digital substructure, and the real people and the markets that are connected to them. So yeah, I think as he's going through, he's just wrecking up and laying waste to whatever structure PQS here has, and I don't know, that may well end up in doing more general harm than good of just taking out the thing.
Well, Michael, do you think that means he should roll to see how it goes?
Absolutely, we got to roll something. It's a game. We got to
get
some dice rolling.
Yeah. And I think we have no tokens yet, but once we get to the end of the scene, we're going to see how we do.
No, we all start with tokens.
What do we start with?
We start with a might and a righteous.
Ah, yes, we do.
So we didn't really talk about that. Tyler, you've read through this a lot. Tell me your interpretation of how you think the reroll stuff works or means, or what that part of the chart is.
You'll make your roll, which is 1 die. If you wish, you could spend a token to reroll. When we get to conditions, we're going to come to that at the end of the scene, and we're going to go down through them, and everybody's going to kind of say, I think you hit this and this and this, and you'll get the effect if you did so.
I was wondering more if you might interpret the reroll column for me.
So for might, you would use your powers, spend a token, you get a chance to reroll. You would explain how you used your powers to do so. Inspiration, you would bring in something external, and if you do, and you get a reroll, but only if you fail would you spend it.
Gotcha.
Righteous, do something you think betrays your ideals, don't spend a token. But later on, it may happen if somebody calls you on it for the condition.
Okay, so these are if you, like, fail the roll and want to say, but really, and use some extra influence.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. And I'm rolling a d6, and I'm looking for high, right?
Yes, indeed.
All right. That is unbelievably a 6.
Ooh! Attaboy. That sounds like a huge success. I think that lets you. I think it makes sense if you roll the success. You get to explain out what happened.
Okay. Then I think we have a bit of accidental heroism going on here, in the broader sense. You know, he's given into the adrenaline rush. He's going through. He's just tearing apart systems right and left, and not giving any heed to the impact it might have. He gets through. There is a climactic boss level battle with what was it again? Blastcom? Yes.
Yeah.
With Blastcom, there's attempts at witty banter on his side. There's very confusing mechanized answers on the other. It's a great battle. Pixels are shed everywhere, and he comes out victorious. And I think, as it turns out, PQS had gotten way down deep, or Blastcom had gotten way down deep into PQS's systems, as the financial analysts and regulators are sifting through the chaos that's gone on here. They find so many schemes and shell corporations and nefarious things that it had pulled money off of that never would have come to light otherwise. And so people come in and they start dismantling the whole PQS structure from the top down. Nobody really quite loses their everything, because governments and insurance companies kind of step in and freeze up all of it before people's lives can be ruined. But I think Ghostscript is sitting back at home. He wakes up from his sort of jaunt. He's panting and elated, but we see montage shots of hours of him going through this stuff as it's coming out, and he's realizing what if this virus had just arrived there? What if this was people's real lives and savings and things that had gone down? What if these governments hadn't stepped in and cleaned up this mess after me? I would have destroyed so many people past their ability to come back from it.
Oh, that's nice. All right, now all of us, we need to look on that chart, and we're going to decide. Did we see? Did we? I'm sorry.
There's also the thing of I know we were doing everyone do reaction shots for Big H, but if anyone thinks they have a knowledge of what's going on here, they can throw in a reaction shot too.
Anyone wanting to hit that at the moment?
Consider that.
I think that at some point, Megan just gets an alert on her phone saying, please be aware there's been a data breach at PQS, but your accounts have not been compromised. Please change your passwords. She's like, oh, damn it.
Lovely. Oh, that's fantastic. Unless someone has another reaction, we go through now the conditions. Did we see Digital Ghost strike a blow against villains or the Big H's government? I think I'll vote. I think we saw striking a blow against villains. How's everyone else? Is that a yes, no? Who thinks?
I think yes.
Yes. All right.
And Patrick, I may have missed this, but what did you do with, if anything, what did you do with PQS?
PQS sort of got dismantled, blasted by my attack, and sort of seized and frozen and dismantled by the government when they came in to clean up this.
That's what your quandary was over. What if they weren't around to clean it up? Okay. Yeah, I definitely give a yes to condition 1.
All right. Inspiration. Did we show inspiring heroism or integrity in front of onlookers? I don't know if anybody saw that. Anybody wanna lobby for that getting a a vote?
Yeah, the only thing I could think of is if there's any way that was like broadcast from the interwebs, but I certainly don't see my character doing anything to create that, and that it's hard for me to envision how that could have happened. That's the only way I could think of that actually occurring.
All right. Doesn't sound like an inspiration then. Righteous. Stand up for the ideals or betray the ideals. And your ideals in particular are Ghost...
Ghost script. My safeguard ideal is the good of the many, which I think I sort of ignored and just ended up lucking out of.
Yeah, I think you might be right. What's other people think?
Does that mean you betrayed the ideal?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because I was going, I don't really see a lot of good of the many going on there.
Uh-huh. All right, that's a loss of a righteous token. All right. Well, that was our first one. We got to see what it was doing. Who would like to be our next hero up on the block? Kyle, what you think? You ready to go? You want to be heroic?
Sure. Yeah. Let's be heroes.
Just for one day.
So I think some time has passed since Onlooker, got inspired, and so he has been. So I guess first off, he's in like a neighborhood that's pretty poor. And so even though Safeguard set up this big like information system, it's still run by humans. So a lot of the cops or whatever, whoever makes the decisions is like, we only have so much resources, like those people, whatever. So Onlooker has kind of stepped up to fill that void. Or need. So he has been sneaking into police headquarters and accessing the system, and then doing vigilante stuff on the side, trying to take out, the big gang leaders in the neighborhood, and whatever. So yeah, the typical scene I would imagine with him is like him up high on a rooftop, like following his prey, and then like waiting for a moment to pounce on him.
So who wants to jump on villain there?
I could do villain here.
All right, excellent.
So I think what you're running up across, what does it say? Low-key, mundane, or low-powered supervillains. So I think, yeah, this is the perfect opportunity for you to run up against a comic book mob boss. So I think what it is there's a really canny mob boss. We'll go Russian. I like Russian mob bosses. Out there who has a lot of feelers, has a lot of people in the police department, and who figures out sort of not exactly who you are, but that someone is using the police database, the police tip-offs to go through and get stuff. And so I think one of these jobs that you pick up out of searching through the police files ends up being a setup. It's a warehouse out on the docks. You are there to stop, I think, like a smuggling shipment of, let's say, illegal weapons that are going through. And I think instead, as you get in and start inspecting the crates of weapons, There's like a sticky foam grenade that goes off. They're trying to catch you there in the middle of this warehouse as this ring of Russian enforcers are going to come in with their guns and take you out.
Yikes.
so that's the bad
Sounds
guy
like a roll.
plan. I think you definitely got to roll for that.
Cool. So let's re-roll this guy. That's not. That's a 2.
Oh my. Then I think the villain gets to describe how this went poorly.
Well, unless you'd like to re-roll.
Oh, yes, of course. You may re-roll. You have 1 in might and 1 in
Righteous.
righteous.
So you could either use your powers or do something you think betrays your ideals. And what's your, have you chosen a safeguard ideal?
Yeah. Protecting innocence. So yeah, that makes sense. I could betray an innocent to save my hide.
Oh, what does that look like? Like, who is this innocent? Is it someone here in the warehouse?
Yeah, probably.
I think maybe they've the mob there. They've brought in as a pawn to keep you from acting up too much. They've brought in your police contact, the one that like gave you the passcodes and keys to get into the building and overlooked all of your stuff.
Right. So yeah, maybe in. Oh, yeah. Now I'm being terrible. Maybe in the explosion, that initial explosion, he got knocked out, and very hastily, realizing the situation he was in, he kind of like throws his disguise or like costume over the unconscious dude.
Oh,
puts on his police garb and then.
Oh, that's nice.
But then
you get a reroll out of it.
So if it does good, can he still, at least kill the bad guys? Or
yeah, I think